Meeting characters is such a magical part of any day at Disney. So is it worth it to do character dining to ensure that you meet the characters that you want? You get to meet characters while you're eating without waiting in line, but it can be expensive and you can meet characters throughout the park anyway. So is it worth the splurge? Let's take a closer look and figure out whether character dining is worth the cost. In order to figure out if the cost is worth it, we need to know how much that cost is. So there are actually many different character dining experiences, and your cost is going to depend on which restaurant you choose. Also, it varies by park. So if you are going to Disney World, it's very different from if you're going to Disneyland. So let's go over the pricing for some different character dining options. Starting with Disney World, there are actually 13 character dining restaurants that you can choose from. Some of them are inside the parks and some of them are in the hotel and resort areas. These range in price from $49 per adult and $33 per child to $89 per adult and $54 per child. Disneyland has far fewer character dining options, with only one in the park and the other 3 in the hotel and resort areas. The Minnie and Friends character breakfast at the Plaza Inn costs $55 per adult and $33 per child, while the hotel dining experiences cost anywhere from $79 per adult and $42 per child to $149 per adult and child. I know I just got sticker shock from the high end of that range, so let's talk about what you get for what you're paying for. I'm going to use the Akershus Royal Hall Princess Storybook Dining Experience as my reference point because it is sort of in the middle of the range. Each restaurant is going to vary a little bit, and I will talk about that more at the end of this section, but let's just use Akershus as an example. So Akershus is located in the Norway Pavilion in Epcot at Disney World in Orlando, Florida. So you do need to have a park ticket to get in and a reservation for the restaurant. Because you have a reservation, you don't have to wait in line. So once you get there, you will get seated and your experience basically starts immediately. It does cost $69 per adult and $46 per child for lunch and dinner. At Akershus, there's a prix fixe menu. It's 3 courses that include appetizers, main entrees, and desserts. The food is amazing. It's good quality. I don't think you would be disappointed if you got served this at any restaurant. In addition to the food, you are also guaranteed to meet 5 princesses. So they are guaranteed to come to your table and each one will come talk to you, sign autographs, take pictures. You really get that full princess experience. Additionally, they do a promenade around the room, which you don't really get at other character locations throughout the Disney parks. So that is sort of unique to character dining. The whole experience takes about an hour. So that is pretty typical, in my opinion, for how long sit-down dining would take. So if sit-down dining was already in your plan, this isn't really costing you any time that you would have used in the park anyway. But if you're someone who likes to eat in line or on the go, then you have to account for the fact that you are using an hour to meet these princesses. I did want to clarify that when I say you are guaranteed to meet the 5 princesses and that they will come to your table and speak to you personally, I do mean guaranteed. If you are at the end of your experience, someone will come over to your table and make sure by asking you whether you met all of the princesses, just to make sure. So it really is a true guarantee. You're going to meet 5 princesses. Now I want to just quickly address some differences between Akershus and some of the other restaurants. One of the big ones is the dining style. So as I said, Akershus is a prix fixe menu. It is family style dining, and the other ones are either table service or buffet for the most part. So you will have to choose your restaurant based on the kind of dining experience you want. So another difference is what characters you're going to meet. Akershus is specifically for the princesses. Somewhere like Goofy's Kitchen would be for meeting Mickey and Minnie and Goofy and friends. So you will want to choose what restaurant you go to based on the dining experience you want and the characters that you want to meet. An important side note here is if you're going to take young children to meet characters for the first time and you're going to spend the money for character dining, you just might want to make sure that they are ready to meet the mascot style characters. They should do great with face characters, but you just never really know if they're going to suddenly be afraid of Mickey Mouse. I have a video about that. Feel free to check it out. Another thing to keep in mind is that Akershus is physically in a Disney park, but there are a lot of options that are not inside the Disney parks but are at hotel resort locations. So in this case, you don't actually need a park ticket to get into that Disney dining experience. If you're planning a longer stay at Disney, you could choose to do your character dining experience at one of the hotel resort locations on a day that you're not going to a Disney park, and then you wouldn't be taking any time away from the time that you're spending going on rides or doing other things, and you'd still get to meet characters and have a super fun and magical day. So I would imagine you could do that either the day you arrive if you have a lot of extra time, or maybe a day that you're using as a break day where you're just resting and not actually going to a park. You could also do this if you live nearby and just wanted to have a Disney experience without actually going to Disneyland or Disney World. Now that we've talked about how much character dining costs and what you get, let's talk about the ways that you can meet characters inside of the parks. So this is aside from character dining, obviously. My favorite way to meet characters is just to see them walking around the park and then get either in line to see them wherever they end up, or sometimes you can take pictures or speak to them while they're moving from place to place. This is great because sometimes it means not waiting in line or getting a very short line, and it also feels really organic and is just even more magical in my opinion, because it's like they are just part of the park as opposed to having to go to a specific place and wait in line to see them. This is much more common at Disneyland than Disney World, but you can definitely do it at both places. At Disneyland, you can sometimes find a princess like Ariel once you get into the entrance, and if you're lucky, you'll get there early enough that she will have just come out and you won't have too much of a line. You can also usually find Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, and the other characters around the entrance to Main Street USA. If you get lucky again and get there when they've just come out, you might have a very short line or no line, but typically the lines for these are pretty long when I've seen them. I have never gotten lucky enough to get there right when they're first showing up. Another great place to come across the Disney characters in the wild is Fantasyland. I have seen Peter Pan over at the Carousel, and I saw Fairy Godmother over near Royal Hall. I have also seen princesses walking near Small World and taking pictures over near Small World. So these are all great places. Fantasyland is a really good place to meet characters. They just tend to be there the most. You will also find a lot of the Star Wars characters, Stormtroopers, Kylo Ren, Chewbacca in Galaxy's Edge, so that's the place to look for them if you want to do that. The next place to meet characters is to go to specific locations where there's guaranteed to be a line, but you're also guaranteed to see that character if you wait in the line. Examples of this are Royal Hall, where you can meet 3 mystery princesses or 1 specific princess. You can go to Toontown and meet Mickey and Minnie in their respective houses. And then there's also the character option on the app that will show you where other characters will be around the park, and you can go and choose to wait in those lines as well. So those typically do have pretty long lines, and for Royal Hall or Mickey, I wouldn't be surprised to wait anywhere from half an hour to an hour. Another option for meeting certain specific characters is if you have the Disney Visa card. They do have Visa card member specific photo opportunities that you can take. I have met Darth Vader twice this way. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so that was pretty cool for me. There are other characters you can meet using that as well. The line for the Disney Visa card is typically a little bit shorter than other lines, and you also get to meet certain specific characters, but I'm definitely not endorsing getting a specific card for this purpose. I'm just saying if you happen to have it, that's something. Moving back to Disney World, you can also wait in specific locations for characters there. You can use the characters tab on the app and see where the different characters are that you might want to wait in line for. There is a Royal Hall type experience there as well, and you are guaranteed to meet one of 2 princesses in either of the 2 lines, and that wait is also about 30 minutes to an hour. And same kind of idea with the other characters you wait in the line, you may be waiting for 30 minutes to an hour. Another way you can see characters but not actually meet them is in the shows and parades. You might be planning to watch these anyway, it's just not the same personal interaction, so it just depends on what kind of an experience you're looking for. But the parades are great and I definitely recommend them, and the shows can be great too. They're short, they're funny, and they're really great for little kids, but adults will enjoy them as well. Now, I just want to talk about how much it costs to just be in the park. It costs about $160 to get a ticket to either Disneyland or Disney World. Obviously, there's a big price range where it can go from anywhere from about $104 to a little over $200, just depending on the day. And of course, it would depend on if you get a park hopper or not, and if you do a multi-day ticket. That being said, assuming you spend about 13 hours there, you are paying a little over $12 an hour to be at Disney. So your time is obviously very valuable. I said that it takes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to get to see 2 to 3 princesses at Disney World or Disneyland. So I'm going to go with the 2 princesses taking half an hour at Disney World. So if you stood in that line twice, you'd spend an hour to see 4 princesses. And if you did character dining, you would spend an hour to meet 5 princesses. So that's pretty close to comparable. Technically speaking, it would cost you a little over $12 in Disney time to meet the princesses by standing and waiting in line, whereas it's costing you $69 to meet the princesses in character dining. But a meal at Disneyland, if you're doing a quick service meal, could cost anywhere from about $18 to $25, and a sit-down meal is more likely to cost $50 or more. And snacks, depending on what you want, range in price from like $5 to $15. So given the quantity of food and the fact that you're at a sit-down restaurant, you'd probably be paying $50 to eat anyway, and you're getting to meet the princesses. So if you were going to do a sit-down restaurant, I'd say that the character dining experience is almost a no-brainer. That's worth your time, and that's worth your money. You were going to pay that anyway, plus you're not spending the extra time having to wait in line to meet the princesses. But if you're going to do quick service, you'd spend, on the high end, $25, and then you have your $12-ish worth of time that you're saving. So it's $37. So that's not really worth it from that perspective. However, from an experience point of view, that was one of my favorite experiences, and so I personally think that the character dining experience, specifically at Akershus, was worth the money that we paid. So in my opinion, Akershus is a great, worthwhile option if you're in Disney World and at Epcot specifically. I think that's a great thing to use your time for personally, because I think meeting the characters and eating a good meal was worth it for me and my family. Now that being said, I don't think that I would do the Minnie Mouse breakfast at Disneyland, because even though it's not overly pricey, if you're doing something in the morning at Disneyland, you are probably missing out on the best opportunities to ride the rides and do other things where there are fewer people in the park. So I would just probably not opt for a breakfast experience for that reason. Moving on to the hotel resort options and whether I think those are worth it. I think it definitely depends on your situation. If you want to have a Disney experience on a day where you don't want to go to the parks, I think it could be a great experience, especially if you were doing something that's on the more mid to low range of the prices. The most expensive option, the $149 per person option, is for a princess dining experience here in the Disney California resort location. And while I think that would be a magical experience, I also don't think I would want to pay $150 per person and not get to go on any rides or do anything else Disney related throughout the day that is included with that price. I love meeting the princesses. I don't think I would pay $150 to do it outside of actually going to the park. For me, it wouldn't be worth it. So is character dining worth the splurge? In my opinion, the answer is yes. I thought it was a great experience. The food is fantastic. It is good quality. I would expect to pay about those prices for that food anyway. And then I really enjoyed both the princess show and getting to see the princesses individually at our table. So if you're interested in character dining, please check out this video about the Akershus Royal Hall dining experience in more detail, or check out this other video instead. Please consider subscribing, and thanks for watching.